Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can watch us on YouTube and Rumble while following us on Facebook, or find us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for past episodes, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe or follow today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Hey, hello and welcome wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Tuned into Conscious Radio Network's The Seance Podcast. If it's your first time tuning in, be sure to subscribe, like, share, and please leave a comment. And of course, follow us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Today, our guest, Oscar Vasquez, founder of realestateDocPrep.com, is here to shed some light on a critical topic, estate planning. With 68% of Americans lacking a valid will or estate plan, many families face costly and time-consuming probate. Oscar specializes in helping homeowners protect their assets and loved ones with simple yet powerful solutions like living trusts. What content are we going to get in today? Let's look at some strategies to make real estate planning easier to understand. Let's welcome to the show today, Oscar Vasquez. How you doing, brother?
Great, Paul. You know, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to use your platform to bring awareness to the 68% of homeowners that don't protect their family with a living trust.
Yeah, it's very. I just did that about a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. I was like, especially if you own real estate, if you've got stuff, know, especially a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably, it's funny that you say stuff, because the biggest misconception that people have of estate planning, that it's for the wealthy. And it's not for the wealthy. Or I'm here to tell you that if you are a homeowner, you're wealthy. You're considered wealthy in the standards of that. Because, you know, first of all, I want to kind of go back and detail understanding why, what is an estate plan and how it works and why do we need it. Yes. And I think that the first thing that we need to look at is, what is an estate plan or a living trust? And a living trust is a document or an agreement between you, the parents, and your kids about how and what you want to have happen to your things when you die, right? And it comes with special instructions. And, you know, I've been looking at, since I've been on this crusade, I've been looking at lots and lots of estate plannings, and I come to the conclusion that they're not all created equal. And in that aspect of not creating equal, because they're not all complete or they're not as comprehensive. So I think that that's the first thing to be aware of. And then understanding that a comprehensive living trust has many, many benefits that's come with it. So that means that your trust, my trust, and everybody's trust, we live in the same state, if it's comprehensive, it's completed, and it helps you with taxes, it protects you, it does a immediate transfer of death, it brings, you know, it comes with end of life documents like special instructions for your burial. It has all the healthcare directive, the HIPAA waivers, all of those documents should come with your living trust. Now, there's a total of 19 documents that you should have an option to get with your living trust. And 90% of the trust that we see is they have two additional documents attached to their trust, and that's the power of attorney and a healthcare directive.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a HIPAA waiver. They don't have final end of life disposition. They don't have a lot of those documents, and that's one of the things that protects us from that. So that's one that gives you an idea, and so that's why a living trust we are a state planning software that brings estate planning or living trust to make it affordable to the masses. So now it's affordable. I mean, there's in California, the average living trust right now is $6,000. The national average, if they use an attorney, is $3,500. That's the national average. But then once again, California, our average home is $700,000 now.
Yeah.
So it's like, Jesus, it's like, we're gonna be paying $100 for a soda here soon.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So I'll go into that. So now what I want to do is, now who needs this? Now, I always tell people this: Google, what is the minimum threshold in my state? And the answer in California is going to be 184.5 in order to go to probate. What is the minimum threshold to avoid probate? In California, it's 184.5. In Indiana, it's 50,000. In Colorado, it's 60,000. In Utah, it's $100,000.
Wow.
That means if you have more than $100,000 in net worth, that means all of your stuff, your things, you're going to go to probate. Now, what happens in probate is, it's a miracle that people don't know that this is what happens. Now, the only document that prevents you from going to probate is a living trust, which is an estate plan. That's it. If not, this is what happens to you. The first thing that happens to your beneficiaries is they find an attorney. An attorney says, it's going to cost 6 to 8% to be able to do it. But they say, don't worry, when you sell the family house, you can pay me. An example, in California, if just to have, for conversation's sake, we use $1 million, that's $60,000 to $80,000 that gets taken off the top just for the attorney.
Wow.
Right? And then people wonder, why do attorneys recommend a will? Well, if a will doesn't prevent me from going to court, right? It doesn't prevent me from going to probate. Well, that could be the answer. I don't know why. I think that maybe the attorneys figure, well, if you can't afford $6,000, then I'll at least sell you $500 and get $60,000 later. I don't know. Then that's the first thing that happens. The second thing that happens is that they publish, it becomes public knowledge. And so the courts publish your name, your assets, and how much you have, and say, if Oscar or Paul owes you money, come forward, come to the court hearing. Or if you think that you are a cousin or a family member and deserve an inheritance, come forward, right? And so now everybody comes forward and comes into that, and then that's potential for scammers.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And they're getting smarter now, because now they don't even scam for 10,000. Now they're smart enough to say, hey, I'll just get a quick 3,500, because the attorney will say, this guy says you owe 3,500. And I've had 2 cases in the last year, but they said, this guy, the Oscar, what do you think we should do? And I said, well, here's the first question. How much do they claim that mom owed them? And they say 3,500. Second question was, how much do you pay? Does the attorney want to respond to that? And says that he wants another 5,000. I said, write it off, because that 5,000 is going to turn into $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, and it's going to delay you getting your money that much more. So, you know what? you're just say, you know what, when you sell the house or when you get the proceeds, pay them, call it a loss. So one, that's the second thing that happens is scammers that you have it. So it becomes public. The third thing that happens is that the judge makes the final decision on what happens to your things.
Mm.
That is just mind-boggling to me that people would allow somebody else. Like, it's like I always tell people this: do you want your beneficiaries to fight, pay, and struggle and wait for their inheritance because you didn't have a living trust, or do you just want to take care of that now? So that's the second thing. So the judge may be able to decide that what is not in your favor or what the family expected. That can happen.
Yeah.
And then the fourth thing that happens is that it takes 18 to 24 months to settle the case. Now, I just talked to a lady in Indiana. Her family took 8 years to settle their case.
Wow.
It was $1 million. It was $1 million estate. And by the time their three siblings, they each ended up getting, after everything was all said and done, they all got like $70,000. How awful is that?
That is awful.
That is just the scariest thing. I mean, I couldn't think of somebody sacrificing, saving for their family, for their beneficiaries to have something when they pass, and they only get a fraction of it. That's the first thing. So the 18, then, I'm sorry, that's probably the fourth. Now, the last thing that can happen, now I haven't seen it very often, but I've seen it happen, is where you have subject to some tax consequences. And on top of that, you're going to get taxed.
Yeah.
By not having a living trust. So, I always ask people, ask yourself one question: do your kids know what to do if something were to happen to you today? They don't. Nobody knows. I didn't know when my mom passed. I didn't know. I mean, I was like calling mortuaries and saying, hey, my mom just passed. What do I do? And asking the hospital and trying to just running with our heads cut off. But with a comprehensive living trust, one of the documents that comes in is the estate plan instructions for the successor trustee, which is so peace of mind that you get with it. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
So
Jeez.
just imagine that, Paul. I mean, and then you think and here's the conclusion. I think that 68% of people don't know what happens. That's why they don't have one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How could you know? How could you know and not do something about it? That's just something that's mind-boggling.
That was crazy too. Is like I'm in my late 40s. I'll be 50 in just a couple years. But because I don't have any siblings, direct siblings, my mother is the only person in the family still alive, really, this region of the world. And it's like, I don't know who to give my stuff to, if anything. And that's the thing. Death happens every day. We never know. You can get killed in a car accident. You can get killed walking. Who knows? Anything is possible. Murphy's Law. And I tell you,
and
pick a good friend out there. Is there somebody that you know? If you don't have a family, if you don't have siblings or parents, if you're a certain age and you just don't have anybody, you're not married or something like that, pick somebody that is responsible, a good friend, and there you go.
You want to hear that's funny that you said that. There was a lady, because my main profession is a real estate agent. There's this lady that was selling one of her houses. Mm-hmm. And I asked her how I said, wow, it's interesting. I said, you got it through probate. I'm sorry for your loss. And she goes, oh no. No. It was my landlord. I said, what do you mean? She goes, yeah, I knew that he didn't have any family. So when he died, he didn't have a trust. So I went to the court and said that he told me And so they gave her 2 houses
Wow.
and over $1 million in cash.
Oh man.
How about that? And
Wow.
she says, and do you not? She goes, oh no. She goes, I would take care of him. I mean, I would go visit him and stuff. But I mean, did he leave you that? And he goes, no, but he did tell me that he had no family.
Wow.
And so because he had no family, I went out and I went to the court and said that, you know what, here it is. And I showed pictures and I showed who he was and I told them about the stories and she ended up with the inheritance. How funny
Man.
is that? Now,
Yeah.
whether that's, you call that lucky or a scam, I guess it's all how you look at it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's best to go into, the citizenry, back into the citizenry of the country or the
Right.
community rather than going into the government establishment.
That's true. That, you know what, yes. I would have to agree. So that's what estate planning is, and that's what it avoids. So one, who needs it? Anybody that is a homeowner in any state in America. And our software, there's 3 things that take an estate plan. There's 3 things there's 3 ways on how you can get an estate plan. The first way is the gold standard, which is hire an attorney and pay the $6,000 to $7,000 to $10,000 to be able to get an estate plan. The second is to get it online. But when you get hire an attorney, every time you do an update, it's anywhere from $14,000 to $2,000 to $4,000 in cost. There's a recurring cost that comes up with a living trust because a living trust should be reviewed every 2 to 3 years to make sure that the assets are in there and to make sure that the legal provisions are up to date.
Yeah.
The second way to get a living trust is to be able to find it and do it yourself online. But the problem with that is every time you need a change, you have to pay it again and again, and that's usually about $800 to do that. I mean, I've seen some people, but there's a statistic that came out on Reddit. I mean, I don't know if it's a convert, but it was a survey that they did. The people that started a living trust, 95% of them didn't finish it. Oof. Because of the complications that is entailed. I mean, if you remember, Paul, going through the living trust, there's a lot of twists and turns. Like, what do you want to have happen if this happens? What do you want to have happen if that happens? And if it becomes more complicated, it even does that. So that's a crazy. And with us, we have what's called a done with you service. And done with you is we walk you through the software. So one, your learning curve goes from, it's like I always use it as an example. Do you remember when you get a new phone? It's like the first 3 weeks is like you hate the phone.
Yeah.
It's the learning curve. Like they moved this button. It was here. We're not where to go. And what happens is what we do is we have what's called estate planning coordinator assistants. And what they do is they tell you where to go in, and then they give you layman's definitions on what each button means and where to do it. So you go through the process. We've had people complete the entire estate planning process. Simple, no siblings. It was very simple. It was something just to protect themselves and protect a couple of the assets. And they did it in, like, you can do it if you have all the answers. You can do it in 45 minutes on one sit down, and we'll sit down with you. Yeah. Sometimes we've sat down with complicated cases where I call it a complicated marriage, where I call it like the Brady Bunch. Mom and dad each came with 3 kids, right? But dad had the house, and dad usually dies first. So that's called the complicated marriage. And now there's a lot of questions that need to be answered on that trust.
Yeah. A lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts on what's going to happen if this happens, and who's going to get what, and how does it happen, and where did the assets come in, and what did they accumulate together, and what did you have when you came to the party. So all of those things we help with by being able to sort those and be able to work with people to be able to make creating a living trust a great experience. I mean, one of the things that we hear a lot is that they feel that you got a big 800-pound gorilla off your back. Because you know that your kids are going to get their assets right away. They don't have to fight or spend more money. The attorney doesn't come in and get a $80,000 case, right?
Mhm.
That he has to go out there and fight for the kids, and then you want to make sure that the judge decides on what happens with
Yeah.
that. So that's in a nutshell why you should get a living trust. I think I do have a couple of gifts. The first gift is a comprehensive estate planning guide. And the reason why I have this guide is because there is what I call the human element of delay when creating a living trust.
Mm.
And the reason why I say that, it's because there's questions we never thought about that require some thought when we have our kids. Right? Like, I'll give you an example. I do a lot of speaking at schools, and we help sheriffs and police departments with their living trust, and educators across the country with their living trust. And we had a case where, there was two particular cases that we helped and we did some research on, where she said, I don't know what to do. I'm in California. My son's in Texas, but I know has a alcohol problem
Mm.
and I think he uses drugs, and I don't know it for sure. And I don't want to give him to sell the house and get all this money because he may kill himself.
Mm.
How do I prevent that? I said, I don't know, man. I mean, that's, we could do, and this was a few years ago. And what we ended up finding that in that case is, after doing research, and we actually called the attorneys that wrote the system, and they said, and this was an aha moment a few years ago for me, where I learned that the difference between everybody's living trust is our name, not only our names and the things that we put in them, but more importantly, the instructions we leave
Yeah.
to our kids, and the provisions that we have that in our software now, because we paid the attorney, or the attorney that wrote the estate plan wrote that the estate plan is done. And what they did is they made him do a drug and alcohol test, a hair particle test every
Mm.
month,
Oh.
and a test. And so they put the money in an annuity, and he would get what the average salary was, no more than that of that community where he lived.
Yeah.
So he was going to get like 80,000 a year for like 25 years, right?
Wow.
It's like winning the lottery. I mean, but when she passes, but he had to stay sober. And if he did not if he tested negative, or he had content in his, he wouldn't get the payment. He had to come back the next month.
Ooh.
Wow. How
Yeah.
about that for an incentive of
Man.
being sober?
Yeah, that's dangling the carrot.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's called like so when people say, well, what can I do? I said that was an aha moment, and that's when I say the limitations of the instructions that you can leave for your kids is limited to the imagination of the instructions you want to leave.
Yeah.
Wow. And that was a big aha moment when I said, so you can literally say, he goes, oh yeah, and it's held up by the court. And she's going to leave the money for the testing. He doesn't have to pay anything. It's all going to be coming from the trust.
Yeah.
So, well,
Yeah,
there you
imagination,
go,
man. Tell you.
That is an interesting concept when it goes into to that in there. Any questions that come to mind, Paul? That I didn't cover?
One I'm sure a lot of people will probably ask is, well, I can't afford that. I have this, I can't afford that. Now, the way I did it, now some people don't ask the right questions. And if you never ask, the answer is always no. So my question first it's a comment and question and an idea, is the way I had mine done was my employer had a prepaid legal plan. I put a very, very small amount in every week, a couple bucks. That was it, very small. But when, that adds up, but it's on an insurance policy, a prepaid insurance policy, like your health insurance.
Sure.
So that's the easy way to do it. That's how I covered mine. I nothing out of my pocket to get it written up. Now, are there plans out there other than asking your employer?
We do. We have a payment plan that goes out 12 months, 0 interest, no qualification, no nothing. You don't have to qualify. We ask you to you have to take a 45-minute webinar to be able to qualify for a payment plan. Because it's important that you understand, if you really need it, we want to help, and the software will allow you to do it, and we'll build out that plan for you. Like immediately. But once you started the payment plan, and the payments are as low as, I think we have some for the lowest I've seen the company that we've come up with is like $300 a month. But you're paid off in a year within like 10 months it's like 6 months at $300 a month. 6 months, no payments, no interest, you get it done. But it is that's with the discount on our website. We do have a special offer for you guys. For your podcast listeners, we have a special offer and a one-time discount if you can afford it. To make a one-time payment. Instead, on our website, we sell it for $24.97. Every day we get people paying that because of the value of what it brings and how comprehensive it is compared to everything else. We give you 10 listeners, we give everybody a discount code, which is Scenic. Scenic is the discount code, and the first 10 people that go to our website, we're going to save $1,000. Now, if $14.97 is a lot for a one-time payment, message me, reach out to us, and we'll work on a payment program. We want to help people protect their home, and for the first 10 listeners, just reach out to us. I'll give you my number. It's 805-290-6044. is my cell phone number, and I would just say that reach out if $14.97, but you want an estate plan. And here's the thing: if you're a homeowner, you have to have it. The second people that need it, if you have kids that are special needs kids that need special needs, you need to be able to have a plan in place on what happens to them when you pass. You may supersede them. So an estate plan helps you with that.
Yeah.
So, I can give you that. And if you have that, reach out to me, you guys, and we'll definitely, we'll work on a payment plan that works for you, that's fair for you, fair for us, and we'll make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. For instance, interestingly enough, I got mine sitting right here.
Yeah.
And it's great. It starts off with the durable power of attorney.
That's right.
Stating off everything, my property and this and that. Then you got the living will.
Yeah.
Then you've got
let me give you a definition. The living will, that's called a pour-over will. What that means is that if you have assets that are not entitled into the living trust to be protected, the living will says you want all of your assets to be put in to the living trust, so it prevents you from taxes and transfer taxes and capital gains taxes and all of that.
Yeah. So
that pour-over will is that I can tell that's a comprehensive estate plan, because not many estate plans have a pour-over will.
No.
Which is a living will.
And then you got the last will and testament.
Yep.
Let's see. You've got the revocable living trust.
Yep. That's where you can make the changes
so on and so forth. I think that is it. Yeah, according. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff in it. And I tell you what, when it's done, when somebody completes this, and like you said, there is so much lifted off your shoulders. It's so refreshing to know that if anything happened, you don't have to worry about all of your stuff going into probate and going to the system. Yeah.
And you know what though? I mean, just knowing that the tax man and the attorney that you don't know is not going to get any of your assets.
Yeah.
It should be peace of mind all in itself, right? You're not going to have to go to probate. It's going to go to the right people that you want, who you intended it to be.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, right? I always tell people, look, there's two choices. One is you're on two plans. One is where you decide, and the other one is where you allow the government to decide on what happens to your stuff.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
the bad part is that you have to like decide on what you want to have happen. So I always tell people, look, now you know, now you can't unknow. That's the first thing. Two, the second thing is now that you know and you can't unknow, now you've seen it, you can't unsee it, and now it's up to you whether do you want to protect your kids or not. So
Yeah.
that's the scary thing of where things are.
And the thing is, too, we're never too young and we're never too old to start this type of process.
Yeah. Yeah, but here's the thing, Paul. When you're 30, you don't think you're going to die.
Yeah.
But you start thinking when you're in your late 40s, you're like, holy mackerel, I'm going to die.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
The older you get, yeah, and that is crazy.
Yeah, right?
Even though the older you get, you don't feel that old. You always feel like you're in your 20s. You always act like you're in your 20s. You still do stuff like you were in your 20s. But I tell you what, as you do get older, you start to realize there's another part of yourself that goes, oh shit. I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah.
And the closer we are all to death when we get older. And if you have stuff, especially if you're a homeowner.
Yeah, but to those people that are younger though, here's the thing that you have to understand. Nothing gets cheaper. Everything gets more expensive.
Yeah.
And you're not going to realize this until you get to your late 40s when you go like, man, that's expensive. When you start saying that, now you're getting old because that means you remember what things used to cost.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, because it's like, I mean, it's amazing. Like, I mean, I remember the condos and the houses that we'd bought it for 50,000. They're going for like 400 now. It's like, holy mackerel. What happened to the prices? A hamburger, used to be able to have lunch for $9 now. And now in California, $25 or $15, $17 is what it's going to cost to have a sack lunch.
Yeah.
And so the young people, I always say this, if you want to wait, you can, but know that you're going to pay for the same thing more later.
Mm-hmm.
And two, our software has unlimited updates.
Yeah.
That means you can update it as your life gets evolved, because the longer that you have it, the thicker it becomes, because having an estate plan is a document that is a living trust that should be looked at and updated on every 3 years at the very least.
Now, in the state of Florida here is it might be the same every state has different things, but in the state of Florida, for instance, they have something called the ladybird deed. Have you ever? What are the pros and cons on ladybird deeds? People think I
haven't done. I think I've done 2 or 3.
Yeah.
In Florida, but I'm gonna write that down because I've never heard of the ladybird deed.
Because people think, or have been brought to the conclusion that a ladybird deed will protect you from probate. but that is not really the case.
Okay, so that would be probably like the same. That document they have in California called the transfer of death. Many people think that a transfer upon death, but they don't skip the capital gains and inheritance tax.
Yeah.
Ouch. And in California, I mean, that's 14% on just, could be up to 14% depending on the size of the estate.
Yeah.
But I mean, imagine on a million. I mean, if you just only had a home, if you're just house rich, only if you only had a home in California. But yeah, and here's the thing: I know that Florida has really, because they have a high population of elderly. They have a very stringent and strict rules on estate planning. I think their cash value, if you have a certain amount of cash in your retirement and it's in Florida, they make you get an estate plan, or you have to go through probate at a smaller threshold.
Yeah.
Because of that. So they want people to have estate plans to be able to prevent the courts from getting tied up. One, and two, they want somebody to handle their affairs, so when they pass, they don't have to. Right? They don't have to. The courts don't want to do it, but that's why the attorneys charge what they charge, because the courts. I mean, the 6 to 8% is that the courts in California and all of the courts have a traditional maximum amount of fees that they can charge. Watch. No attorney charges below the maximum. They don't. They say, you know what? This is what it costs. And everybody just says, this is what it costs.
Yeah.
And when you're grieving, it's got to get done. You say, okay, I don't have the money. They say, no problem. Sign this letter. You can pay me when you sell the house. Done.
Yeah.
Right? But then the house has to be forcefully sold, which is scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard some stories too, that some people have done, not some clients of mine. I hold a real estate license in the state of Florida. Got it during COVID. So, right now I'm voluntary inactive because got other jobs and stuff like that. But it's like right now the market's kind of crazy. It's like everybody's just sitting. Like, what's happening? What's going to go on? It would but I heard some people who several years ago they bought their home and fair in a very good market value and got enough equity. They had good credit. They had the opportunity several years ago to be able to get a home equity line of credit. And we're like, wait a second. Okay, we'll refinance to drop our to get our rate lower. They decided to take out, a few $1,000s. And the first thing they did was, because they also had kids and they had the home, they used that money to get the trust going, to build the trust. So that's a very smart thing to do, especially if anybody is in that, in that scenario, to be able to do so.
Absolutely.
So, wow. Oof.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Now, is probate different in every state?
Every state has a different probate process. But they all every state is different what they charge. Most of them follow the same process because there's a method to their madness. Is the reason why it becomes public. Is it becomes a public and they publish it. It's not to get scammers. The reason why they public is they want to make sure that if there's a beneficiary out there, they want to make sure that they get told that, hey, your dad died or your cousin died. Yeah. You want to come forward. They want to make sure that the right people get that happening. 1, 2, because they want to also know that if you borrowed money and had contracts or debt out there, that you pay them, right?
Yeah.
So they just don't want to say, hey, the debt died with them, and you want to give the debtors that responsibility.
Especially especially if you have liens on the property from contractors doing work. That's common. And I
it is
see that come
common.
up in a lot of title companies when during the transfer of the paperwork. Like, hey, hold on a second, you got a lien on here from work that was done like 15 years ago.
Yep. and that $1,800 is now 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, oops, what do you mean? I'm not going to pay that. Well, can't do it. So that is some of the things that we tell people that you should take into consideration and really think about that method to the madness of the courts. And then the courts want to make sure that the right beneficiaries get what they're entitled to. But there's sometimes that the judge is human and they make errors and they just judge in a totally different aspect of philosophy, and sometimes it's not what the family expected.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I had a gentleman that he left a separation, and he left them a separate amount of money. He left the wife when the kids were there, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna move on, but I'm gonna leave you this amount of money, and that's for the kids." And the mom didn't do it. And when he came and he passed away in California, the kids showed up, and because he had a really nice nest egg in California, and instead of it getting split 4 ways between the kids, ended up splitting. He left 5 kids back there, and it was 9. Whoa. So they got 1/9 of the estate versus 25%. Talking about expecting a big payday, and now the judge said there was no trust, and he didn't say I do not want to leave them anything. He did say that he didn't even acknowledge them on the will, and the kids are like, that's not fair. And I said, no, that's called judge making the final decision on what happens to your stuff.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
Man. Yeah, it is. So before we wrap up the show, what would you like to leave our audience as a takeaway, some words of wisdom?
Okay. Here's the one thing I can tell you. Tomorrow's too late. No, tomorrow is not promised. Yesterday is too late. The best day to do something is today. And it doesn't even matter. You could apply that to whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Live it to where it is. But I always tell people this, when is the best time to get an estate plan? 2 hours before you die. You just don't know, right?
Yeah.
So I think protect it, get the peace of mind. It's especially if you have a family, you have to do it. You just have no choice, because it's your responsibility for bringing other human beings. You guys got my number. I'll give you numbers and links. You guys got the discount code. The first 10 people get a discount code on there, and we'll go back and see what we can do with that.
Yeah.
And with that being said, just thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For having me, Paul, and for allowing me to use your platform to bring that information to the 68% that do not have an estate plan. That is amazing. But I can't believe it. But thank you so much.
You are so very welcome. And this is very important, very, very important information. We got to protect ourselves. We have to. It's better than having Big Brother, Uncle Sam, the establishment getting it. They don't need it. Yeah. We need it more than they do. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Greetings. Awesome. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your knowledge, the work that you do, the education that you bring to everybody, and continued success. And if there's anything else out there that might be changing in the system, that might be coming up, that you feel should really, especially at a federal level, that might be coming up, that we should need to know about, definitely let me know and we'll get you back on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul. Have
You're
a
very
great one.
welcome.
Thank you,
Take
sir.
care. Thank everybody for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance Podcast. Until next time, we'll see you then.